So to this week's presentation, Reefer Madness. I just love saying it. I haven't been able to say it in years. Cannabis legalization has exploded in the United States, Canada, and around the world. More and more U.S. states are legalizing medical and recreational use. Projected sales in the U.S. are expected to hit $23 billion by 2023. Yes, that's $23 billion. For Canada, a much smaller country, it's $8 billion this year alone. And now Reefer Madness comes to Mexico. Soon Mexico will become the world's largest free cannabis market by population. What does this mean for Mexico and the world industry? Michael presents us with a fast-paced overview of the plant, the U.S. and Canadian industry, and possible scenarios for legal marijuana in Mexico. Michael has lived in Ajijic for 17 years with his artist wife, whose name we don't know. Thank you, and join me in welcoming Michael.
Thank you. Suggested here. How am I doing? Okay? Welcome. All right. I'm trying not to do any stoner jokes here. I'm trying to be serious here. We're doing jokes about Cheech and Chong here. Okay. Everybody here, how many people went to college in the 60s and 70s? Raise your hand. Okay, thank you. Then you all know about cannabis. As you mentioned, I'm going to talk about the plant. I'm going to talk about the cannabis industry in the United States and Canada and Mexico. How many Canadians do we have? Raise your hand if you're Canadian. Oh, not many. I'm surprised. Okay. How many gardeners do we have out there? Raise your hand if you're a gardener. Okay, I come at this as a gardener point of view. I'm the oldest gardener in this place. I had my first garden at 5, so that's about 55 years of gardening. No mathematicians out there. Okay. I'm going to say cannabis, marijuana interchangeably. In Mexico, it's marijuana. Unless you don't watch television or read, cannabis is now taken over legality. All the states now, 33 states in the United States, and all of Canada have legalized marijuana in some way. A lot of them are medical, some are recreational. I think you know the difference. Cannabis is becoming a culture. The people that work in the cannabis industry, it's like a culture. It'd be similar to like a coffee culture, or a yacht culture, or a polo culture, or a hockey culture. If you really want to be cool with your grandkids, I would suggest instead of saying the word cool, say the word dank. Like, that's really dank. That's it. Comes from the cannabis culture. Or fire. That's fire. We got a young person over here, youngest one here, she knows the words. You know dank? Fire. Fire's taking over now. Okay. Okay. We have any botanists out there? Botanists. I'm not going to use any of these technical terms. I'm trying to keep it simple here. Okay. Botany 101 about the marijuana plant. Okay, there's simple varieties, cultivars of marijuana plant. The first one is Cannabis sativa. Taller plant, bushier, kind of shaped like a Christmas tree. Comes from the warmer parts of the world. Then there's Cannabis indica, smaller plant, bushier, comes from Afghanistan, Pakistan, Nepal. Both of them have these psychotropic properties. And then there's another cannabis one I'm going to talk about briefly. It's called ruderalis. You probably never heard of it. Very small plants. Comes from Eastern Europe, Russia. It's not commercially viable, but it changed the whole industry of cannabis in the world. And then there's another cannabis that's hemp. Hemp is like a sativa. Hemp would be, you make things like clothing, hats, rope, things like that. The Canadians, of the 5 largest companies in the world at hemp, Canada has several companies, the largest ones, out of Manitoba. Apparently Manitoba, Canada is the cannabis capital of the world up there. Anybody from Manitoba? Okay. The active ingredients that we all know are THC, CBD. CBD, I want to ask if you take CBD. CBD is like a body stone. It relaxes your body, anxiety, takes care of that. THC is what you use when you want to listen to some old Grateful Dead records. There are about 8,000 cultivars of marijuana now. 8,000. You've heard some of them. Maui Wowie, Panama Red, Skunk, Acapulco Gold, Pineapple Express, and there's, they get creative, they're run out of names. The breeders have become very creative. One plant is called Gorilla Glue. But they had problems with the adhesive maker who was going to sue them because they didn't want that, so they changed that. It's called GG4. Then they have a variety of cannabis called Girl Scout cookies. Well, you can imagine the trouble they had with that one. There are probably hundreds of seed companies across the world that sell marijuana seeds, and you can buy them delivered here. They come in disguised packages for obvious reasons. It takes a long time to get it to Mexico. Most of the seed people are from Spain, England, America, Canada, there's some there. The Europeans were really first on the cannabis scene. The Dutch are the big breeders of cannabis in the world. They did all the hybridization of cannabis, and the Dutch are foremost in that. Some of the seed companies, of course, they have weird names. One of my favorite one is, this is true, it's called the Porno Seed Company. And you go to the website, yeah, and they have topless women there with the name of the variety of this marijuana, and then, you know, the script is like, really comes on strong, you know, well, I won't go into description, but the porno one is probably my favorite. I don't know if the stuff's any good, but I'll try that. In the Woodstock era, people that grew up in the 60s and 70s used to smoke marijuana that was probably THC. It was probably about 10-11% THC. Well, nowadays, you're talking about THC levels. 11 would be low. Normally, it's about 18. Now they're over 20. Now they have cannabis now with 32% THC. Personally, I've never smoked cannabis with 32% THC, nor would I remember smoking cannabis with 32% THC. The expression is couch lock. If you smoke some of that stuff, you get couch lock. You just sit on the couch and you watch TV. You can't do anything else. Okay. Plant is propagated by small seeds. Botany 101, seeds are male or female. You grow them, you get a male or a female plant. You throw out all the male plants. All the potency is found in the female plants and the buds and the flower satchels. You would only keep a male plant around if you're going to breed. In the 60s and 70s, you bought marijuana that was very seedy because they didn't realize it when they figured it out. Also, a marijuana seed is 1/100th of a gram, I believe. So it made a larger, they can make more money because you had seeds in it. They don't do that anymore. Okay. They finally discovered, the Dutch had figured out in the 90s that instead of having a male and female, which is really not very efficient, they added a chemical, a silver chemical. Now all the seeds are female. 99% are female when you buy them. feminized seeds, they call them. But wait, there's more. The ruderalis plant, I mentioned, is about this small plant. Normally, marijuana plants grow by the sun. When the sun starts to come down, less light, they begin to flower. Ruderalis plant is different. At a certain amount of time, it will flower. So they've crossbred that now. Now they have plants, they're feminized, and you don't need the sun. It will, after so many days, it will begin to flower. Okay. Put the seed in the ground, it grows up, it starts as a seedling, it comes into vegetative states, and then either it's a feminized one or a ruderalis one, it begins to flower and produce the flower sacs. So how do you know when a marijuana plant is ready to harvest? You take a microscope or a small little jeweler's one and you look at the leaves of the plant, the buds, and they have, I'll just say the word hairs, and they have small little things that look like teeny mushrooms, and they're clear. That's where all the potency is in the plant. And they're clear, and then they become frosted, and then they become amber. So when about 15% of those little things are amber, and they have to look at them all the day, they harvest the plant. Here's how you harvest marijuana. You cut it off at the bottom. You turn it upside down. You hang it someplace in the dark with a little bit of ventilation. No sun works on marijuana plant. It kills the potency of it. So it has to be inside in the darkness, and you dry it. After about a week to 10 days, the marijuana plant is pretty dry. You take the marijuana plant, then you cut off all the buds that are on the plant. When you have a marijuana plant, there's a lot of leaves, small little teeny leaves that come out from the bud. Those are called sugar leaves. Because of the little hairs are very silvery, so it looks kind of white. The marijuana plant is an ornamental, by the way. Easy to grow compared to tomatoes here. Anybody here successfully grow tomatoes down here? Really hard. Peppers, I can grow peppers, and other plants, squash. But tomatoes down here are really tough. Cherry tomatoes grow well. Anyway, okay, you cut all the buds off. You put them in an airtight container. They usually put jars or things like that in a large container. And you burp them every day or so. You just open the container up, let the air out. The marijuana plant still has chlorophyll in it, and if you would smoke it then, it's kind of a harshness to the smoke. So you want to get that out of the plant. So after about 2 weeks more, then the marijuana plant is ready to smoke or do what you want with it. The industry now has, they call it flower. That's the bud. They call it flower. Well, they have a lot of byproducts now. They have tinctures, oils, concentrates. They have a thing called shatter, which is like peanut brittle. You break it off and you smoke it. One thing interesting about the plant is that the American growers, because of legalization, have wiped out the Mexican marijuana trade down here. The way I know that is that I'm reading about it, and it said that the border customs, they catch very few marijuana now going north. Because one reason is the Mexican growers down here can't grow good weed. The best weed by far is grown in the United States and Canada. By far. It used to be in the olden days, 7, 8 years ago, the vast majority of marijuana was grown by Mexicans in national forests in the United States. But now, it's way, way down. The black market in Canada is about 40% of the market. That's people that grow marijuana that are not signed up legal. In the United States, it's a little less than that. the Canadians, we have very few Canadians, I can say this now, so they don't rush the stage. Canadians are like almost arrogant about their growing of their marijuana, about their hockey, same thing with their hockey. Marijuana plant is the most regulated, taxed plant in the world. Nothing's close to it. Think about that. The most taxed, regulated commodity plant in the world. People say, what about oil? Well, that's a byproduct. That's not a plant. But we'll talk about that. In the United States, about 2012, they began to legalize in the United States. First, they made it medical, and they changed it. And all the states are getting in on the act. Are they allowing marijuana to grow because of they want to do the CBD oil to help, just want to help people? Taxes. You're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars of taxes that the states will tax and regulate marijuana. California is the biggest grower. Colorado, Oregon, Washington, four of the big four. New York's coming online. Florida's going to start growing marijuana. Soon like to be California. California is billions and billions of dollars of marijuana they grow and use. They're sold in dispensaries. Don't you love that word, dispensaries? I expect to see, women in the white nurses thing with Red Cross there. Can I help you? Oh, you want some of this? I know some of you use CBD oil. I'm just talking to the woman about it. A vial of CBD oil down here is about, talking to friends, about 1,200 pesos. If you get it in the United States, about, 2,000 pesos, about $100 of CBD oil. A CBD plant will give you enough oil for the rest of your life. So, the cultivars they vary, the sizes, the strength, the potencies, the flavors. Now, marijuana comes in flavors, just not skunk flavor or harsh flavor. They have like, vanilla, chocolate, cinnamon, mango, coffee. The breeders have done that too, just miraculous. The breeders have taken these seed and the breeding programs, and they have really changed. It's just not a harsh smoke anymore. It's now, as I said, it's a culture. So they try to make it easy for everybody. Ever been in Amsterdam, where they have the okay. So go to the bottom line. If you have a plant that's maybe this tall, with maybe 30, 40, 50 buds, high THC, cured, dried and cured correctly, you might get, 28 grams to an ounce, 60 ounces to a pound. You might get a pound or two out of that. Marijuana now on wholesale market in the United States, it varies between states. Washington, D.C., it costs most, Oregon's less. A plant about that size is $2,000 per plant. Okay. The cannabis business in the United States is a big business. If you follow the stock market, there's a couple of largest companies actually are Canadian companies, Tilray and Canopy Growth are coming out of Ontario. They're the largest cannabis companies, and they produce tons of marijuana. You can go to YouTube, and you can go to some of the websites there, and you can look at, they have interview shows on YouTube of cannabis operations. And you walk out to a grow, That's 100,000 square feet. You know, the size of this area here, it's just all cannabis with, you know, 10,000, 12,000 plants. Now you think, gee, $1,000 a plant. I got 10,000 plants. That's millions and millions of dollars. How can I not make a lot of money? Well, surprisingly, they don't make a lot of money. Some of them do, and they go broke. How come? Well, taxes and regulations in the United States and Canada. And it's expensive to run that. For instance, if you have it, most of marijuana grown in the United States is inside. It's grown inorganically, 2 or 3 gallon pots with either cocoa nor or pink moss, and they add the product they call it, the fertilizer, to grow the plant. It's not grown organically. When you grow it outside, there's more risk. It's harder to grow it outside because you have Mother Nature. You grow it down here, you've been growing the last couple of weeks. A lot of rain down here recently. A lot of overcast days. Now, if you were going to grow marijuana in the world, where would you grow it? Well, believe it or not, one of the best places to grow marijuana in the world is right over here. Right in this little spot right there. You think I'm kidding? No, because we have down here, we have about 350 days of sunshine. We have low humidity. One of the biggest problems that marijuana growers have is mold and mildew with high humidity. That's a killer. If they find mold or mildew in a shipment of marijuana, they have to destroy it. Okay, generally, the marijuana business is divided up into 3 different layers. The growers, distributors, and the retail outlets. And the cities, counties, states, special districts all tax it and regulate it. So sometimes it takes years to get a grower's license or a distributor's license or whatever you want. So basically what it is and they're separate. The growers grow it, distributors buy it. Distributors have to certify that the THC content or the CBD content or whatever it is, and they have to make sure it's clean. Then they give it to the retailers and they sell it. One of the problems the growers have, or the industry has in the United States, is you can't advertise. In Canada, you go out, you can get it on, I believe, on websites and things like that in Canada. You can't, they don't ship it in the mail yet in the United States. So you have to go to dispensaries to get marijuana. If you can't advertise, which is kind of strange, it's surprisingly, you would think you'd have a hard time, but you don't, because kind of word gets out. Now, when I say regulation and or taxes, you have no idea what kind of things they do to the industry. I mean, you have to, for instance, you have to have an application fee what they charge you. Then if you get your license, you have a license fee. You have to renew that license every single year. These licenses, depending on the size of the grow, can get like $2,500 a year, just that. And they're regulated. They come, they check, they make sure. An example would be, this is small time, would be a fire marshal would come to your business, and they have the right to come to your business and look at everything, make sure your fire extinguishers are exactly where they are, and then you have a sign that says where the exits are. Well, that's not free. They're going to charge you $250 or so. The fire marshal will come look around for 15, 20 minutes. Most of the plants are not, commercially, are not grown by seed. They're grown by clones. Well, gardeners, that's called cuttings. They take cuttings from a regular bush. A clone costs about $10, $20, $30 each. For a really super duper clone, you have some special one that everybody's buying at dispensaries. And you think, wow, $30 for one plant, that's a lot. Well, once again, $1,000 for the plant, $30 is small. Now the federal government is getting in the act. Technically and true, marijuana in the United States is illegal on the federal level. It's a Schedule I drug like heroin, cocaine, opioids, but it's not on the state level. Federal government is given to the states to figure out what they're going to do. And as I said, if you look at any of the states, it's way more complicated than I can express in 40 minutes. All the states have different rules, strange rules. In California, distributors, it has to be in a car. It can't be somebody under 21 years old in a car. You have to go to and from the place. You cannot deliver marijuana by drone, or pogo stick, or horse. You can deliver marijuana walking, though, by person. And the reason they do that is because some operations are growers and they have the store right there. So they sell it and they walk the marijuana over and put it in the store. So they have to do that. So if you want to deliver by hand, you can. Now the industry, adjunct of the industry is all the machinery they have at these large operations. Let me give you some of the costs. When they're grown inside, they're trying to they grow a perfect pot. You've ever seen pot, gone into the dispensary, look at the pot, those little buds, they're absolutely perfect. They're just perfect. Because they've taken the same method that the agriculture has done of perfect fruit. You and I both know, if you go in a grocery store, hello, you go in a grocery store and you see a red pepper with a spot on it, you won't buy it. Same with pot. If there's anything, if there's a little sugar leaf that's just sticking out, oh, that's bad pot, I won't buy it. So it makes it expensive. When they take the buds off and they cut the leaves off, they have people that have little scissors and they have to laboriously cut every single bud. And if you have 10,000 plants with a pound of marijuana, you can figure out what the labor costs are. Now they have machines that you put the buds in and they're circular and it goes down this machine and it rotates it and cuts off the buds when it goes down the machine. And the growers are charged every way they can. They'll charge you a number of clones. You move the clones, they charge you. It has to be clean. And packaging is a whole different thing. It has to be child-proof. The letters have to be what it is. It has to be a certain... And you know this when you buy products in the United States. Packaging is part of it. And all the growers, people in the business, are trying to develop a brand. So when you go to the dispensary, they got... And the dispensaries are fabulous. Nordstrom's. Tiffany, they're Tiffany's. I look at Tiffany. And you go in there and you look at everything's perfect. Everything's absolutely perfect. And they're packaged right, and my goodness, on the olden days, you used to call, hey Bob, can you give me some pot? And you talk to a friend, and talk to a friend, and he gets I'll think of pot in a bag, and it costs $10. Now it's $300 for an ounce of high quality marijuana. The federal government is going to get in the act now, and because they see the money value, they're going to start charging too. I'll give an example of what they charge more in Los Angeles County. You want to buy some at high THC, they charge you more money. There's about a 20% tax on marijuana in LA County of high THC. And I do suggest that you go on YouTube and just put in marijuana farms and look at some of the grows, how they grow it. It's kind of interesting. And it's a business, it's a culture. Okay, now let's talk about Mexico for a minute. And when I started this, I signed out here about March, and I thought, well, by the time July rolls on, I'll be able to figure out what Mexico's going to do with marijuana. Well, that didn't happen because in 2018, the Supreme Court of Marijuana of Mexico said that it has to be legalized. You guys. So the Congress, the government took that long up to 2020 with 2 extensions, trying to create laws. Well, and the April 30th was the cutoff date this year. Well, the Congress went home. They didn't pass any laws. So June 29th, Supreme Court of Mexico said, marijuana is legal. What's that mean? Well, we're not quite sure. You know, as we all know, if you've been down here for a while, Mexico is the land of magical realism. Which is normal. Here's some of the possible scenarios I've been reading about. One scenario is, it's probably going to be true, you're able to grow 6 plants in your house, 8 plants if there's another person over the age of 21, an adult. I can tell you the 8 plants in marijuana is more than you need for a long time. What Mexico is doing is kind of unusual, is they're making people sign up. You have to register saying you grow those 6 or 8 plants. Thank you. Which is the only one. In the United States, they don't do that. A lot of Mexicans don't like that concept of signing up to grow the plant because they know where you're at and, you know, whatever. They have a thing now they're going to call an association. An association would be 2 to 20 people. You can grow 50 plants, no more than 4 plants per person, or, see, 20 divided into 50, that's 2.5 plants per person. I'm not sure how I'm not sure how the half would work if you had an association. It would be like, okay, Bob, I'll take care of the left-hand side of the plant, and you do the right-hand side. But the association of growers has endless possibilities. Let me give an example. I know Stephen's around here someplace. You know, we have the Lakeside Chapala Society. How about Lakeside Cannabis Society? LCS could easily charge you, make an association right here, make something with sun and ground, and charge the growers to come in and grow marijuana here. You know, like $100 a plot, or $300 or whatever. Can you imagine that, you know, 50 plants growing over there? These are tall. It's possible. You probably can't sell dispensaries, but you could auction off the plants. And you know, you could make thousands and thousands of dollars, but I'm only saying now, I'm only saying. Biggest fear that Mexico has is what the United States occurred now, so the big growers come in. The big growers in the United States are multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar companies with a lot of money, and they take losses. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to buy their way out. They're going to stay in the game. They're going to take the loss, and the people, the small growers and the inside growers are going to eventually be wiped out, and then be able to set the price of marijuana. Mexico's pretty worried about that, and what they've done is they, like the United States, they promised to have special deals for indigenous people to grow marijuana in Mexico. Whether it happens or not, I'm not sure. We'll see. One of the things they floated is the idea that, okay, they'll restrict everybody growing marijuana to one hectare, which is a small amount of land. The problem with that is, if you have a lot of teeny growers and you don't have large ones, you have to understand that you can't supply the dispensary with marijuana. It would be cacophony of problems in Mexico if they had a lot of small growers, because you won't be able to control it. They had an interesting article I read in the New York Times. A reporter went up to Sinaloa to the growers who've been growing marijuana in Sinaloa for years, for generations, and the growers are worried because they're going to be wiped out by the legal marijuana in Mexico. Mexican pot is not very good, generally speaking, compared to American stuff. What's going to happen, we don't know. The legislature comes back in September. We'll see what kind of laws they pass, what they're going to do. You're going to be able to grow 6 or 8 plants in your house. If you've never grown marijuana, as I said, it's an easy plant, fairly easy plant to grow, easier than tomatoes down here. You can grow them. You have to be careful that people don't steal them. They're not going to steal them when they're small. It's when they start flowering that you have to worry about it. They do have plants that, the breeders have plants that you can't tell they're marijuana because the leaf pattern's a little bit different. So if you looked at those plants, you couldn't tell it's marijuana. You can tell when you walk up to it and smell it. It smells like marijuana. By the way, the marijuana smell is like a defense mechanism. Marijuana plants are propagated by the air, not birds, not bees, not hummingbirds, by the air for some reason. That's just the way it is. So, amazing when you do this, it's like I have so much stuff to do, and I realize I have about 6 hours worth of things, like cut it down. I'd rather just take some questions, do some questions now, if they have any questions about it. Thank you.